Hi everyone, this is Professor Benjamin, and we're moving into the last couple weeks of this course. So you've done a great job. You're over like the huge hump. We're on our downhill. The biggest thing that you have coming up due, of course, is your paper. And a lot of you struggled on the first draft, and I don't know if it's just because you had a lot due then, and so you put it on the back burner. I gave you feedback and comments. A bunch of you might need to see the writing lab to have someone proofread your work before you submit it. And it's just the fact that maybe some of you haven't taken English 102 yet, which is the research paper class. So this is the first time you're, you know, taking together a large amount of work and then having to write a paper on it that's a significant in length. So the issue is that a lot of you need to learn how to set up your introduction so you introduce the problem, and that could take a page or two to really introduce the problem that you're about ready to assess. And then the next couple pages are assessing that problem. And then the last couple pages are, of course, drawing that together, making recommendations or giving, solutions to the problem, etc. And then you kind of wrap it up. So that is really how the structure of a research paper works. And so I think many of you, just because you've never written a research paper before, you might just need some more help in writing the research paper. A lot of you are going to need a little bit more sources of information to be able to write a paper of that length and to really get into the nitty-gritty of the problem and try and explain what the problem is and then solve that problem. So a lot of you might need a lot more information. And if that's the case, then please see Nikki in the library or any librarian at CCP, and they will really help you get your information together for this research project. If you have trouble because you're like, oh my gosh, there's just a lot of information, I'm not sure how to sort this out, a great tool that you can use is an outline. So you outline, you do a detailed outline of your paper, and then you just fill in the holes where all that information is. So there's a couple helpful pointers, and you'll see I extended the deadline for the second draft until November 26th. Now I know that is Thanksgiving weekend, so if you have plans for Thanksgiving weekend, try and work on your second draft now, and then it'll give you a little bit more time to get that work done, because I know Thanksgiving holiday is time off with your family, and that is definitely something that you should do. But I just extended it because I just wanted to give you a little bit more time for those individuals who wanted more time. So if you feel that you're ready to submit your second draft, you could do that now or at the end of this week. But if you feel like you need an additional week, then you can use that Thanksgiving Day week to do that. So last week we covered religion, and a lot of you did a great job on your religion forums and your religion assignments, so that was fantastic. This week, then we covered ethnicity, and a lot of you did a great job on your forums. You were very honest about whether you thought social media could help genocides, prevent genocides, etc. One really interesting thing that I think a lot of you might not have addressed or thought about was the idea of how do we try somebody for a war crime. And this article is really, really interesting because you'll see it's very complicated on how we can charge countries of a war crime, or not countries, but their who's ever in rule at the time of war crimes. It's a really intricate process. It does require a lot of aerial imagery, and it requires a lot of on-hand accounts, and so social media will help with that a little bit. They need to see videos and make sure that they're not edited videos. So it's really hard to convict somebody of a war crime, and I think that a lot of people don't understand how hard it is to convict somebody of a war crime. So this is a great article that's really good food for thought on when we say, yes, that's a horrific accident or a horrific incident that's taking place in the world, and then we really think it's super easy that that country or that administration or that power that's in charge should be tried of that war crime. It's really hard to do that. Okay, so that's my thing. You can see here, you'll see I I extended the date of that final draft. So you do what is best for you and your family in terms of submitting that draft. I just wanted to open the portal through Thanksgiving weekend. If you remember, again, I'm not requiring it due then. It could be due this week if you wanted to, but I'm just giving you that extra time in case you have some time that you can spend over that holiday weekend working on your thing. And then next week, so this week we have folk and popular culture, and you'll have your initial post due by Tuesday, response post due by Friday. This is a really cool and interesting chapter in your textbook. You know, what is pop culture? It's really interesting. I love it. It's actually one of my favorite sessions here. And what is the difference between folk and popular culture? This is a great YouTube video of what is the difference between the two things. So make sure you watch that and understand the differences between what folk and popular culture is. Then we move into the next week where we're going to cover development and globalization, and you'll have post due, that's due Thanksgiving week, that session 12. And then I give you a couple weeks to really get your paper together. So we technically have nothing due after that. We have our final paper due. You could see here we have our final paper due. You have time from November 26th through December 10th for your final paper, because that is a huge portion of your grade and it's something you really need to work on and make sure it's a really good research paper. So you have plenty of time in there to see the writing lab, to see Nikki, to really get information together to submit a really good research paper. I'm going to be grading these research papers because this is really your final exam in this class. And then I actually ask you to make a final paper discussion, because this by December 14th you'll see all the rules in the discussion, because that is actually part of the learning outcomes for this course. So that's really important. If you see down here, I took actually a session out because I really wanted you to work on that final paper because it's really important. So this week, remember, we're working on folk and popular culture. Next week, development and globalization, and then your paper. So you have your second draft due. Don't forget your second draft due by November 26th. You'll have development and globalization due that Thanksgiving week as well. And then you have about 2 weeks to really work on your final paper for submittal. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm really excited. We're like moving towards the end of the semester. So keep your head up, keep pushing forward, okay? And if you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out. Have a wonderful week.